Alright, hello everyone. I'm forecaster Jack Sillin, and today we'll be doing an earlier than expected first tropical weather discussion of the season. This is May 14th, 2020, believe it or not. We do have a tropical disturbance to keep an eye on. Here it is on our infrared satellite imagery. Why am I doing that at 3:15 in the afternoon over visible satellite imagery? Well, the sun is nearly directly overhead. Not quite, but close enough that the visible satellite imagery is pretty washed out. So infrared's going to give us a better picture of what's going on, and that's what we're taking a look at here. So a few things to note about this disturbance, which is centered here just southeast of Key West. You can hopefully see my little cursor on the screen here. This is to the extent that this system has a center, this is about where you'd find it. There is a good amount of shower and thunderstorm activity associated with that sort of center or emerging center of circulation. Also, plenty of venting in the upper levels. Note the cirrus here moving off to the north and then racing off to the north and east. So this system really isn't being sheared a ton right now. A little bit out of the southwest. You can see there isn't a whole lot of convection out to the west or southwest or northwest of this system. So we're getting a little bit of light westerly or southwesterly shear here, but overall this is a decently favorable environment for intensification. So far, not a whole lot to look at here as far as cold cloud tops. Just seeing a few of these updrafts pop into the -50 to -60 range, and nothing really getting above -60 except for that cell down there north of Cuba. Why is that? Well, we have not, or we have sea surface temperatures rather that are not outrageously warm, and the system isn't outrageously strong at this point in time. So that's going to keep these cloud tops a little bit lower. And that's actually a trend that we're likely to see for the rest of the storm's life cycle. So this isn't going to be one of these things where we're going to be routinely pushing -80 to -90 degrees Celsius cloud tops. We just don't have enough instability through the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere to get clouds that tall. And that's largely because it's, well, May and the ocean isn't super warm yet, which means that the fuel for thunderstorms here is going to be a little bit more limited. Doesn't mean we can't get any, but it just means that they're not going to be quite as impressive as, say, those classic May into June, or rather June, July, August, September, the more classic tropical months. This is a more classic May into June, early season, shorter thunderstorms. This is a pretty a classic early season system here. All right, so switching over to our weathermodels.com comparator tool here, we're going to take a look at some of the model guidance um, for this storm's future. So, what to expect from the storm as it moves, as it develops and then moves eventually north? Well, here it is emerging near the Bahamas. This is the ECMWF ensemble prediction system, ensemble mean is the shading here, sea level pressure, and then all the cyclone locations. So here's our system gradually emerging in the northern Bahamas on Friday night. It will be moving, north-northeast at a relatively slow pace through the first part of the weekend, even into Sunday, not moving all that fast. This is really the window of time that it has to develop into a subtropical or tropical cyclone as it's slowly meandering up the Gulf Stream. The waters are just cool enough, or rather just warm enough to support a little bit of, just warm enough to support a little bit of convective activity here. If the storm were to track a little bit farther east, it would find much colder waters, but if it's able to hug the Gulf Stream, it's going to be just borderline enough to get a reasonably favorable environment for tropical or subtropical development. Then it's going to start to move off to the northeast, start to move a little bit faster. But you notice the new areas of low pressure developing here to the storm's west, and there's really no consensus about where this secondary area of low pressure. And this is actually going to be associated with a completely separate storm. I'll show you that in a second. It's non-tropical in nature. It's just a garden variety, regular, plain old extratropical storm system. But that's going to be forming here in the Carolinas, maybe as far north and west as parts of the southern Ohio Valley, maybe as far southwest as the Gulf of Mexico. That would be interesting to say the least. And maybe as far east, northeast as the ocean here off of the Delmarva, north of Cape Hatteras. Those are all locations that we could see the secondary area of low pressure develop. While our subtropical or tropical cyclone, whatever this ends up being, is trying to move off to the northeast. Now, yesterday it looked like, and I'll show you this map here. This was yesterday's ECMWF forecast. It looked like that secondary area of low pressure. Here's the system I'm talking about. This little bowling ball, upper level low that starts out over the Great Lakes and then takes a sharp dive south. You can see our subtropical storm here, trying to escape off to the northeast and then getting basically captured by this upper level low, which then sits and stalls over the mid-Atlantic for several days. That was the solution offered up by guidance yesterday, but is that actually looking plausible in the light of today's guidance? Well, a sort of modified version of it, perhaps. This is the new ECMWF guidance showing this cyclone, upper level cyclone, stalling out not over the Delmarva mid-Atlantic region, but actually all the way back down into Alabama and Georgia. So if that were to happen, then our subtropical cyclone seen right here would able to escape quickly off to the north and east. It would not be bothering anyone in New England. No impacts along the east coast, aside from some enhanced surf. And then we'd be dealing with the extratropical area of low pressure associated with this upper level low. So that's what the guidance is suggestive of today. If we take a look at these are the ECMWF spaghettios, just another way of looking at how the ensemble systems are thinking about this storm. If you notice, I don't have yesterday's spaghettios plotted here, but we can get those pulled up here. Just give me a second to find EPS cyclones, East Coast. We can get the spaghettios from yesterday. Alright, so here are the spaghettios from yesterday. Those should be loading up shortly. But if we look at today's, you can see that the little circles associated with our subtropical cyclone are cruising off to the northeast, aside from a few outliers really not impacting any land mass, while this sort of secondary, much weaker area of low pressure lingers back towards the coast. Yesterday's don't seem to be loading up all that quickly here. Oh, there they are. Yeah, all right. So you see, yesterday they were very clumped near the coast. Our subtropical cyclone, which is here east of Cape Hatteras, sort of moves northeast and then it stops and sits right near the coast for a long time. Thankfully today, that's looking a little bit less likely, though there's plenty of time for this to play out and plenty of time for forecasts to change. So if you're along the East Coast concerned about this system, really don't be. At worst, even if we got yesterday's more high impact solution, it'd be a couple days of heavy rain and some light to moderate winds. This is definitely not an intense storm. It's not something that's going to be doing a whole lot of damage. Just a sort of typical springtime nuisance low. But it's a good reminder that hurricane season is coming right up. So take a second now while you can, while things are still relatively calm out in the Atlantic, to figure out what your plans would be if a hurricane were to arrive, especially in the era of COVID-19. Your plans that have perhaps worked well in recent years and past years may not be quite as viable today. So dust those off the shelf this weekend if you have nothing else to do, and you'll be in a much better place. You'll be glad you did if a storm is headed your way later this season. All right, I'll have another update tomorrow or Saturday if there's anything new to report, but so far it looks like this is not going to be a big problem along the East Coast. All right, thanks for watching.